I had to do it. Who doesn't know this theme, right? We're doing a brand new show today called Legal Bites. And the reason why I made the small bumps is because I wasn't smart enough to come up with that name, but Jim McKoon was. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you. Actually, one of my partners came up with that.
Really? You don't have to give credit to him. You're an attorney. What are you doing? You're being honest all of a sudden as an attorney? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But that's great. How you doing, Jim?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Yeah, this is your slide every week, man. This is fantastic. I want to tell listen, everyone, if you're anywhere near the bridge, the Chickamauga Bridge, and you're traveling into Hickson, don't do it. Access Road 319, get off, and I made it here in like 10 minutes. Because, I mean, it's blocked up. I mean, it looks like there's an accident on the bridge. And
but you came from Bojangles.
How'd you know that? How'd you know that? I do a mean Bojangles dance, too. You know? But it reminds me of Philadelphia, the Schuylkill Expressway, as we call it, the short kill. When I go up, I could actually look and see the Schuylkill. Now, this is in the 60s. It was stopped every morning during rush hour. And I said, whatever I do when I grow up, I am not going to be one of those guys stuck in that traffic. And this is what, once in a while we get it here, but in big cities, it's all the time. Like Atlanta. I would kill myself if I had to work in Atlanta. I would.
Or Washington, D.C.
Or Washington. If God said, listen, you're going to make $1 million a year in Atlanta, or you're going to be a pauper under a bridge in Chattanooga, I'll take the bridge. I hate traffic.
Yep.
It's just I don't have the patience for it.
Yep.
But in Chattanooga, we're so blessed and lucky. People go, well, you know, it's over the bridge. Can you get here? I'm like, it's 5 minutes away. I know it's over the bridge, but it's 5 minutes away. You can get anywhere here within a half hour. It's a wonderful area. You've been here how long, Jim?
Since 1981.
And practicing law, how many years?
Since 1981. So that's what, 36 years,
wow.
35 years.
Where are you originally from?
Columbus, Georgia.
What inspired you to go into the profession of law? Because I know it is one that people are questioning right now because there's a plethora of attorneys. And I'm going to say this. I think the modern day attorneys are not as good as the old timers. I don't know why that is. And maybe it's just the several I've dealt with. But I think old school attorneys were taught differently, and I don't know why that is. But what was it that inspired you?
I'd always been involved in athletics, so I like competition. I've always enjoyed helping people. I get esteem from being of service to someone. And when we put the two together, how many jobs can you do that and also be challenged every day? Knowing you're helping someone, knowing you're being of service to the court, to your clients, to the other parties, generally to the community. And yet, when you've got someone on the other side, you're also in an adversarial role, so you're competing. So I got all of this.
It's fun, isn't it?
It really, really is. Not always fun, but it's always challenging and interesting.
Well, McKoon Law Firm is in downtown, 633 Chestnut Street, 1300. Is that your suite number?
It is, but we're actually moving to the 15th floor. So in January, it'll be 1500.
It's MWA Law Firm. MWA Law Firm.com. 423-756-6400. Everyone knows McKoon. Anybody I talk to, everyone knows you guys. In a positive way, because it does seem as though you care about your clients. What are you the most passionate about as far as the type of cases? What excites you?
Oh, wow. It sounds trite, but every client's case excites me to some extent. They're all different. I mean, we'll get involved in handling a commercial or a business dispute where it means the world to a small businessman. And, it's bet the company from his standpoint. It may be a small company often, but it's bet the company for him and his livelihood. And so you get excited because you're his knight in shining armor. You're charging into the fray. You're doing the things that he can't do, and advising him along the way. Or you've got a young woman who was in an accident and suddenly at 25, 29 years old, she's a paraplegic, and she's got 3 children. And, you know, you're fighting for her future and for the future of her kids. Those are totally different, but they, you know, as an advocate, you fight for the same types of issues for both of them, getting them help and getting them justice and whatever the issues are.
I can tell you this as a patriot and constitutionalist and someone that studied law since I was 13 and have been in and out of the courts fighting constitutional issues and other issues. I would recommend you never, ever, unless you're well-schooled, fight your own battles. There's so many intricacies of the law and the courts and the system, and it's a unique environment, even though you think you know what you're talking about. So it's so important to get proper representation or getting represented. That's what I call representation, represented. So even though you may think you know what the law is and the idiosyncrasies of it, I mean, things can also be time relevant. That if you don't file certain papers in a certain period of time, that, sorry, Charlie, you're done. That doesn't become evidence. So you have to know the rules of court. You have to know evidence. You have to know how to object. So I would say, and I know there's constitutionalists and patriots a lot that listen to this show, unless you really know what you're talking about and understand the law, not legal theories, hire someone that is smarter than you in that field, that can assist you in that field, and that more than anything can be dispassionate and objective.
Oh, I agree. You have to be objective. The person represents itself as a fool for a client and a fool for a lawyer.
Most of the time, but not all the time. Most of the time.
Agreed. But yes, that's the best thing that you get by having representation is not only being able to guide you in the procedures, but the objective to look at it and explain why they may not have a cause of action, although they feel extremely wronged.
Right. And don't think that the system is always against you, that I can't win because the judge knows the lawyer, blah, 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 blah. There are situations that I've seen that I've covered, trials that I've covered, and that I've been involved in, where I was assuming the judge was going to go the exact opposite way, and she didn't. She actually went in my favor in one case against the feds, and I was shocked. I mean, I'm thinking, well, this is where she gets her bread buttered, but she was a fair, objective, great judge that believed in her role to obey the Constitution, and she did the right thing. So don't go in there with assumptions that, well, if I hire an attorney, that, you know, I'm going to lose because the other side's attorney is friends with that judge. There's a lot of judges that can separate personal and business. Do you agree?
Oh, and we are so blessed in Hamilton County and actually in the adjoining counties with having a great judiciary. And we have a great bar in these surrounding, or in what would be, I guess, your demographic area for the radio station. We have attorneys who work with one another generally, who have care about their clients, who do a good job, who work the files. We have judges that apply the law, who try to be fair. If people that aren't represented actually get probably a more fair hearing than people that are represented, because they're trying to bend over backwards, understanding that they don't know the procedures and the rules. So from my point of view, in the years I've been in this area, I've been impressed with our judiciary and our practicing bar.
This is Jim's show. This is Legal Bites. I love that. You'll be able to, in the upcoming weeks, call and ask your questions to Jim at McKoon Law Firm, 633 Chestnut Street there. Moving phone numbers, 756-6400. You can view us worldwide on YouTube at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We're on Twitter. We're streaming on NoogaRadio.com, HotNewsTalkRadio.com. If you've got a smart device, trust me, you'll be able to pick us up, AM 1240, and soon on FM. And we're going to tease that a little bit more and tell you exactly the times you can rehear this broadcast, because we're going to actually shift the broadcast times so we can get a wider, broader audience. It is so important in our constitutional republic, and I tell people, we're not a democracy. This is not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. And our constitutional republic that we have representation, that we have attorneys in the system to make sure that the facts are presented to an impartial jury. The example would be this recent bus crash where 6 children died. Now, I can tell you this, Jim, this is the first time in my 40-plus career that I am judge, jury, and executioner. And I hope this guy gets the death penalty. I don't think he will. Because you look at that bus and you see the letters that were written. And I say, emotionally, fry this guy. If I was the dad, I'd have drug him out by his dreadlocks and beat him to a pulp. But that's what we do in Philly. Okay? That's what we do. We don't go to the court and petition for, relief. We'll drag him out and say, you don't treat kids like this. However, that's my emotional side. My side as a constitutionalist said this guy is entitled to an impartial jury, an impartial trial, and let the evidence be presented. As a matter of fact, I call public defenders public prosecutors. But in this case, I'm not going to, because Mike Little, who's a great guy, who's passionate about the law, was originally handed the case and he had to hand it over. I was talking about it. I said, Mike, I bet you're already filing motions to quash evidence. Yeah, we're already doing that. Because if there's no intent in the manslaughter case, the letters that were written are irrelevant, correct?
Well, you can have negligent homicide. And I mean, if you saw where the runner from Baylor was just, that case was just in the news, where the lady from Moccasin Bend pled guilty to negligent vehicular homicide. So the mere fact that you may not have intent, you had intent to get behind the wheel. And,
right.
And that's where it's, and there's such a tragedy for these families from Woodmore. I can't imagine having a child hurt, much less to lose a child. I'm a father of 5, and it just is beyond me to fathom the emotions and the hurt and the pain. And that the bus driver, the bus company, and possibly the Board of Education and the county, they're going to look at multiple trials. They won't just be the criminal case. The victims of these, I think 3 cases have already been filed, and those cases will be brought as well.
The law in our constitutional republic, to me, is so fascinating. It's just the way the law has evolved. One thing that frustrates me, I'm going to put my journalist cap on for a second, is the very first Supreme Court decision is Marbury versus Madison, where it said whatever the court says, the Constitution is, it is. And to me, that was the first decision, was one of the most ridiculous decisions this republic has ever had. And I think it's a tragedy that in Marbury, that was the decision. And I've always believed that should be reversed. It's almost like saying, well, whatever the priest said the Bible is, it is. No, it's not. It is what it is. There's no ambiguity in the Constitution. It doesn't have to be interpreted. The statutes are put up to the Constitution, and all you have to do is determine whether or not the statute meets within constitutional scrutiny or anything within the statute. There's no interpretation needed for the Constitution. If you needed to interpret it, it would be void for vagueness. So it's the one thing that's always driven me crazy as a patriot and a constitutionalist, is that you attorneys are stuck with the idea that if you have 5 liberal Supreme Court justices, you get an activist court that determines, well, it really doesn't mean this. The right to bear arms means you bear arms, not guns. And then you get a conservative court, and the court goes, no, the right to bear arms also means bazookas. To me, this is part of the absurdity of the law. How do you work around that, not knowing every single day with certainty what the court rulings are going to be? That when you walk into that courtroom, you don't know if the Supreme Court just changed what you believed was a law, or stare decisis.
Or we'll change it when the case. You work on precedent, and you work on what you believe the facts as they apply to the law as you understand it will do. And I disagree that there's not ambiguities. It says all men are created equal. What about your wife? What about your daughter? You have to have interpretation.
Well, when they were saying man, they meant mankind.
You just interpreted. You just interpreted.
Well, but that has no. But wait a second. The preamble has no legal authority, so not really.
Well, but you're still interpreting. You're still interpreting. You know.
Well, let's face it. Men weren't equal to women back then. You know, women were our property.
Well,
and that's the way it was. So.
Agreed, and that's why there has to be some interpretation. And our lives are amorphous. Yeah. I mean, 150 years ago, we didn't have a radio station.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have to morph, and the Constitution. That's what's so wonderful about it. It's a living document.
I don't see it as a living document.
It morphs with our technology.
Yeah.
With our social mores, with everything that's going on.
Then it wouldn't be a constitution. A constitution is a foundation. Now, if you want to change it, you amend it. But, you know, to give you an example, where the Second Amendment says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, we know what that means. We know the organized and the unorganized militia. We know the militia of the day. And then the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. We know what the people are. An infringement is you trying to tell me to do something or me trying to tell you to do something. So how that has to be interpreted, you know, we'll agree to disagree on that.
Right.
But I would say that justices should obey the Constitution, the written, clear, unambiguous word of the Constitution, and apply it and look to whether a statute meets constitutional scrutiny and not try to figure out simple English language in the law. And this is what I was saying. Modern day lawyers, it appears, don't get that. And the old time lawyers do. And that's why I question, what are they now teaching in law school? And have you seen that in your practice?
Have I seen a change in the way attorneys are looking at law? Not really. I think what law school teaches us, and has done so for generations, is how to think as an attorney. Yes, you learn law, but actually you learn principles about applying law, because the law changes all the time.
The written word and how you breathe life into it.
And so you go through the Socratic method. If you watch Paper Chase and you watch John Huesman, examine the class, you get to think on your feet. You have to think quickly how to apply factual situations to legal principles. But the legal principles change. I mean, things change.
Yeah. Well, there's this one, and we're going to get back into legal bites in a second, but I have you. There's this one case that absolutely drives me, as it was driven me crazy, which is McCulloch v. Maryland, where the power to tax is the power to destroy. And there's a line in there, and this is why we have all these ridiculous federal agencies, and the federal government is about 98% out of control, is because the court said word under Article 1, Section 8. By the way, that's, our audience knows what that is. That's the enabling clause in the Constitution that grants the federal government power. At the end, it says you basically have all the powers that are proper and necessary to enforce the foregoing powers. Well, the court in that case ruled, since it didn't say absolutely proper and necessary, you can create all these federal agencies. It was when Maryland was trying to tax the notes of the federal government. And the Supreme Court said, you can't do that because the power to tax is the power to destroy. And by the way, since the founders didn't use the word absolutely, they can create all these. It's you know what? It's bloviating. It's hyperbole. It's dicta. I look at this and go, I love the law, but I want to strangle these judges once in a while and go, you're not fooling anybody with this. We know what the founders meant, and we understand the English language. And when you're looking at a case, and I'm going to throw one at you that you may have dealt with over the years, Terry versus Ohio. Where,
that's talking about the Terry stop by officers.
Outer body pat to protect the officer and the citizen. And New York was doing that with
Terry was also more, did you have an articulable reason to stop the vehicle? The officer has to have an articulable reason to cause a stop. Was it weaving? Was there a light out? Something along those lines.
Yeah. So it appears that an appellate court in New York has actually ruled against the Terry versus Ohio decision and saying stop and frisk is wrong. So, because I believe in Terry, he was hanging outside a drugstore and the police patted him down. I'm pretty sure that's what the case was. But now here you have an appellate court. We have stare decisis, and you have an appellate court saying, well, no, we're not going to listen to that because, stop and frisk is unconstitutional. What do you as an attorney do in that case?
Well, if you're a defense attorney, you go home and have a nice drink and hug your wife. you know, and if you're the DA, you go back and pound your head against the wall and figure out what you're going to do with it. So I mean, it depends on which side of the case.
And what is it that DAs never quit? You could show them. You know, listen, you're breaking the law. The one we laugh about around here is resisting arrest. There's no other charge except resisting arrest. Well, how can you charge me with resisting arrest? For what?
Right. There's no predicate arrest being made. So
yeah. And the other one is disorderly conduct, which is so unconstitutional. It's crazy. And that's why disorderly conduct will never, ever get before an appellate court. Never.
because it's so vague.
Because they use it. Yeah, it's so vague. It's void for vagueness. It's used as a charge as you know what? You know, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Just plead to that. And it'll be a fine misdemeanor and
right.
You know, pick up some trash along the side of the street. It's just, I look at things like this, I have to laugh and go, why aren't the attorneys nationwide going, no, we're not going to do this. This is not going to be used as a tool. We're going to rule this unconstitutional. We're going to push this.
Well, because we're going
to push it. The courts do.
One part or element of justice is one, the cost,
or just us.
You know, what does the client want to pay, and is it a better resolution and closure to the client to pay a $25 fine and go home and know that he's not at risk anymore? Yeah. I mean, that's the same principle applies in civil litigation. Why do you accept a settlement that is only part of what you get at trial? Well, you might lose.
Right.
You don't know what the jury could do.
Right. That's the exciting. That's what you're excited about, right? It's that competition.
Well, there's a competition, there's a challenge. And so what you're doing is you're constantly going to your attorney, if you're the client, saying, how do you value the case now? Well, if you knew this, or if this kind of evidence is there, what does that do to my probability of success?
And the more you delay, the better chances you have at winning, right? Delay.
Well,
I mean, to get a settlement.
Well, if you're the defendant.
Yeah.
If you're the plaintiff, you're driving to try to get it to resolution.
And please, if you're ever called for jury duty, it's one of the most important things you can do in your life. I believe it is absolutely an unwritten civil responsibility that you sit on the jury, either criminal or civil. It is defense against an omnipotent state. It really is. That if you don't like a law and you think someone's being tried unjustly, IRS can't even get guilty verdicts on willful failure anymore in Montana. The jury goes not guilty. They're educated. So you have to sit on, please, civil or criminal trials, sit on that jury. You can invoke justice. One juror, correct me if I'm wrong, has more power than the president of the United States at that time in that case. That one juror can let that person walk if they believe the law is unjust, whether they're not guilty or the government hasn't proven their case, or in a civil case that they've been wrongly, not accused, but wrongly abused or injured.
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. The right and the obligation to serve as a juror is paramount to our entire justice system, both criminally and civilly. I mean, you never realize how important it is to your party.
Yeah.
And you walk in there and you see the veneer or the jury panel that is brought into the courtroom, and you have to realize that someone in the 12 people out of that panel are going to be your jurors.
Yeah, and the process in our republic is so unique than any other country in the world. I don't believe any other country in the world has the exact same system we have.
We're very blessed.
You know, the idea is I'd rather see 100 guilty men go free than to have one innocent person go to jail.
Right.
That's on the criminal side.
Right.
This is Legal Bites. Jim McKoon's with us. AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We've got a lot more to talk about. We'll do that after this.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Are you shovel ready to build a house, but you're not a builder? Are you shovel ready? Michael's Homes is ready to bulldoze its way to a solution for you. You have ideas on what you want in a house, but you're looking for someone to bring your ideas into a plan and turn your plan into a house. Michael's Homes, custom builder. Michael's Homes has lots available at a new subdivision, River Bay Estates, that's Harrison. Maybe River Watch in Saudi Daisy. Choices galore, lots, houses, beautiful homes all over Chattanooga. The Canyons, Hickson. Crystal Brook, Appleton. Drive in, take a look, consult with us. We build on your lot or ours. Homes-Chattanooga.com.
Call 423-413-9929. There's a reason why Alliance Physical Therapy is the choice of professionals and those who care about first-class, top-notch service and treatment. Because at Alliance Physical Therapy of Chattanooga, we don't just treat the symptoms in your body. Whether you're suffering from stiffness, muscle spasms, back pain, chronic headaches every day, stress of life demanding more and more of you, Alliance Physical Therapy takes a holistic approach to healing, mind, body, and soul. Alliance Physical Therapy with a location near you and 9 others in the Chattanooga area. If you don't have a doctor or if your physician's plan for chronic pain is not working, Alliance Physical Therapy will help. Visit Alliance Physical Therapy on the web at nopainpt.com. That's nopainpt.com. Alliance Physical Therapy.
Looking for a dream home, or maybe you're just a first-time home buyer? Let an agent get you started today on your house search. If you're a real estate agent looking for a change, see what Exit can do for you. The agents at Exit Realty Scenic City are confident they can sell your house. They can do it in 99 days or less. If no one works harder for you than agents at Exit Realty Scenic City, licensed in Tennessee and Georgia. Exit sells quickly all types of commercial and residential properties and vacant land. Looking for a dream home, or maybe you're just a first-time home buyer? Let an agent get you started today on your house search. If you're a real estate agent looking for a change, see what Exit can do for you. Training, technology, branding, culture, and financial freedom. Again, Exit Realty Scenic City. Call 423-551-EXIT to learn more. Call 423-551-EXIT and learn more.
Terms and restrictions may apply.
Come and enjoy Christmas music this Sunday from the Mid-South Symphonic Band playing at Robin L. Christian Performing Arts Center at Ringgold High School in Ringgold. Admission and parking are free. The conductor is Jim Suiters, and you'll be hearing at this annual concert many Christmas favorites that you will enjoy at 3 o'clock. That's 3 p.m. this Sunday, the Mid-South Symphonic Band playing your Christmas favorites.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
AM 1240 Nooga Radio News, Russell Stroud reporting. The City Council of Chattanooga has approved the purchase of body cameras for the Chattanooga Police Department to the tune of $2.19 million. The city will also be getting some help from the feds at $300,000. Guidelines are being put together by the police chief, Fred Fletcher. They're supposed to be in line with the Department of Justice guidelines already in existence. Officers are expected to have these body cameras first quarter 2017 in just a few months. Several shootings rocking the Chattanooga area in the last few days, and so far no gunmen have been found. One of the shootings appears to have been gang-related, another a botched robbery, and another one possibly just a random shooting. All the victims have survived with minor injuries, and all the gunmen are still on the loose. New efforts are being seen in various cities around Hamilton County to decentralize the school system. Yusuf Hakeem in the Chattanooga City Council is asking questions about what's going to be done about schools which were paid for by the county, which would then be used by the city if the city secedes, so to speak, from the county school system. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on AM 1240
through your afternoon hours. High temperatures near 55 tonight. More clouds will push in. Could see a late sprinkle or mountain flurry. Lows mid and upper 30s. Breezy, colder Thursday. Highs struggling to reach the lower to middle 40s. 20 to 24 by Friday morning. Old Man Winter's back, so keep your family toasty warm all season long with Dodge City Ski Shop, featuring the largest selection of cold weather clothing around. That's Dodge City Ski Shop, East Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. And I'm Storm Machine 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Here's what advertisers are saying about AM 1240. HotNewsTalkRadio.com.
Radio station, they really care. They're always calling me probably once a week, checking on me, seeing how things going, see if they want to change any of the ads or do anything different, seeing what my needs are. I've gotten business off the ads that you do for me, and seems to be working well at this point.
Prices were very fair. Areas in this town that we aren't able to get other ways, your radio station is able to help us out, and I really appreciate that.
We've been very pleased with the services we've got. It seems like everybody over there cares about what they're going to do, how it's going to work for us on this end, and we've been very impressed with the creativity of the ads that we've heard, and they always seem to be right on point, even without us having to come up with what's going to be said.
I've been doing business with News Talk Radio for quite some time. It's the best place and the best value you can get for your advertisement. The commercials are great. They're very professional. I was actually blown away.
The commercial that they put together was awesome. It was way far above all the other radio stations we've dealt with. The best we've had yet, guarantee you, by far.
AM 1240, HotNewsTalkRadio.com gets results. Let us get results for your business. For no obligation free consultation, call General Sales Manager Steve Johnson. Call 423-240-5459. That's 240-5459. Or you can always email Steve at NougaRadioSteve@gmail.com. That's NougaRadioSteve@gmail.com. AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We get results.
And welcome back to Legal Bites. Yeah, I came up with that name. That's why I get paid the bucks. No, I didn't. I would love to say I did. But even Jim didn't come up with that name.
No.
All right, who came up with the name?
Bill Whalen, and I owe him a crystal because I put out an email in the firm. I said, whoever can come up with the best name, I'll buy him a crystal.
We need to. You need to make sure that thing is copywritten, registered, copywritten, and sent to the president for his signature. President-elect Trump.
There you go.
Yeah. Do you notice when I'm not asking you this, I don't want you to get political, but when you're breathing the air, it's like nice and fresh. You actually have an adult ready to take the office that understands business, and he never sleeps, and he's making deals, and these Democrats and all, what do? They pass laws, and they're for bureaucrats. What do real businessmen do? They don't ask permission, they just do it. He's flying his airplane to different countries. He's talking to Japanese investors, going to put $50 billion in. Man, we can, as business guys, we can breathe. And Barack, yeah, we built this, buddy. We built this. We really did. We built it. So we can breathe now. And listen, and this kind of concerns me. The president is not an attorney, the president-elect. I'm joking. I had to throw that in. I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. But there are times in our republic, because people are very litigious, that you need an attorney, you need a good law firm. Everyone knows McKoon. Everyone. You say that name, you guys have a great reputation. You're passionate about what you do, Jim. This is Jim's slot every week, 11 to 12. You're going to have the opportunity to call and get some fantastic legal advice here at AM 1240. Their number is 423-756-6400. 423-756-6400. Your law firm covers a gamut, wide array of different legal issues. From what to what, Jim?
We do. We've got attorneys that specialize and handle, and I shouldn't use the term specialize based upon our regulations. We have attorneys who emphasize doing a lot of guardianship and conservatorship work and estate probate, estate planning. We have attorneys that do a great deal of commercial work, contracts, business representation, compliance. We do a lot of environmental work, taking properties that were previously contaminated and taking them brownfield and redeveloping those properties into either commercial or residential projects. I've got several of those going on in town right now.
Criminal law, if you've been charged with.
Yes, we've Clay Whitaker in our office does a great deal of criminal work, and frankly, I think he's pretty good at it.
We're the radio station that despises checkpoints, by the way. So we recommend that. And by the way, Red Bank does not want to divulge where their checkpoints are. So we're coming after you, Red Bank. We may need you to go after Red Bank. So we're going to talk to you about that because Saudi divulges them. You know, Red Bank thinks they're privileged and they don't have to tell us where their fascist Nazi checkpoints are. That's me talking, not you.
Yeah, I'm sitting here very quietly.
That's you. That's not me. But I hate checkpoints. You were talking about the spirit of the law. It goes against. My dad was a police officer, and I'm going back to the 70s, and he and I would argue for hours every night on this checkpoint issue because they started them in the 70s, the late 70s, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Okay. And back then they were just DUI checkpoints. Now they're document checkpoints. So they stop you at like 9:30 in the morning when you go to the appointment and go, we want to see you got your driver's license, registration, proof of insurance. Did you have your car inspected? We want to see. And when I stop at him, I say, no. So what do you mean?
I wonder where Colonel Klink went when they stopped Hogan's Heroes.
When they say, can I see your documents? I say, no. Now you have a choice. You can either let me go or arrest me. I need a vacation. You can arrest me because I've always wanted to argue this at the Supreme Court. So, but when you go home tonight, look at everything that you own because I'm probably going to eventually own it if you violate any one of my individual or constitutional rights. And they almost always let me go. I actually called the barracks and the state police and asked them to send me a citation for failure to produce a driver's license when requested under the statute, and they wouldn't do it. They don't want to get this before the court. But stopping someone's freedom of movement for no reason other than to, I call it sniff their underwear, to go on a fishing expedition, to me is repugnant. Unless there's a way out. And Sonny Daisy does it the right way. They have signs up. They notified the Department of Transportation. So you voluntarily go into a checkpoint if you want to go into it. And that's what the Supreme Court said. If you want it, it's voluntary. We put signs up, checkpoint ahead, and there has to be a way out.
Right, and the state has a legitimate interest of the city because they're looking for compliance with the laws, the traffic laws, the driver's license laws. So that's their side of it. You know, someone's got to play the other side here today. Apparently, I mean, absolutely. I mean, otherwise, I can't drive through Red Bank after sitting on this show.
No, we love Red Bank. Yeah. We just don't want them to be smug.
Well, but there are legitimate interests for the public that our police officers are trying to enforce.
Jim's like, I never want him to co-host with me again. But it makes the show exciting. This is what court is about.
Yeah,
right?
I'm pretty excited over here. I'm sweating BBs. I'm trying to think, do I have to go anywhere near Signal Mountain?
But and let me tell you, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, they had to throw out a bunch of convictions on DUI. You know why? No. The evidence was corrupted. The chain of evidence. That's another thing. You know, you could be actually guilty of something as a matter of fact. I always say, if you argue the facts in court, you're going to lose because the prosecutor's always going to lie. The cop's always going to lie. You know, I'm sorry, but, you know, the state's going to lie. They're going to present witnesses to get you convicted. So you have to argue the law. That's just my perspective. So if you can win with the law, but if you present facts and the state present facts, you know, witnesses just magically appear and police testimony just magically changes. That's just what I've seen in covering trials.
Well, I don't share your jaundice towards the legal system on the criminal side.
No, I love it. It's just what I've seen.
Well, I understand. Well, you should go to court more often. I mean, there are.
You know, Tennessee courts. I have not seen that in Tennessee courts. I've been in Tennessee courts. Right. That's why I love Tennessee. Tennesseans, I love Tennessee. You know, please adopt me as a Northerner because I am a Confederate. I'm a what you call.
You're definitely a rebel.
Well, Copperhead. That's a Northerner that sided with the South during the war to prevent Southern independence. But up north, they're so corrupt. I'm watching court trials down here, and the judges are very congenial. They don't scream, they don't yell, they don't insult anybody. Everyone. No, I don't see that. I'll tell you, I do not see that in Tennessee or Chattanooga courts.
Right. Well, like I said earlier, I have been impressed in my years of practice with our judiciary and with the bar. Yeah. I mean, and the district attorney's office are part of the bar, and I will tell you that. Yes, they are tough when they feel like they need to be tough in a case. I think the Woodmore case is going to be one where they're going to be very tough. On the other side of it, when you've got individuals, I mean, where they've made a mistake, they've worked, with defense counsel.
I've seen
where
that.
they can. So, I mean, I can't say that I've ever felt like there was an injustice. I may feel like I had to go through hoops that I shouldn't have had to go through.
Yeah.
But that's where they're being as tough as they can be.
I can tell you in Tennessee, I'm going to agree with you, Jim, because my other half got a ticket for, I don't know, going through a stop sign or whatever it was. And I sat there, and as I'm watching the judge adjudicate these cases, I'm like, they're lucky I'm not up there, because he was so lenient on these people that I'd have thrown the book at them. Some of them. I mean, they're back again and again and again. They're not paying their fines. I'd be like, cuff them. You're going to cool off for 30 days in county. And no, they bend over backwards for justice, I believe, in this area.
Right. I mean, what was it? Where the law and mercy meet, there's justice.
Yeah.
And I'm a true believer in that. I think that you have to, at some point in time, understand that people make mistakes and we are human. And despite what the law may say, and this is civilly too, you have to sometimes do the good guy discount.
Good. And I'm saying, just because you may have made a mistake and done something wrong, there may be something regarding the law that can get that conviction overturned or the evidence thrown out of court.
Right.
So even though you may have done something, am I correct?
Yeah.
You still may walk. So don't think, don't ever buy the idea of someone going, I just plead to a lower charge or, use the public defender. Always.
No.
If you're presented with a citation or a court date, you have got to call an attorney. Call McKoon. Because if anything, they're going to give you your options. In a lot of cases you have, and this is not a commercial, but it's a free consultation.
Right.
And listen, this is what I look at. We're dealing with the power of the state. And if you look at Federalist 44 and 45, it says the state's power unlimited. They're omnipotent. The state has so much power. So at least 8 to 9 hours a day, you have the state up against you. Their money, their unlimited money, funds coming from everywhere, up against you. The state of Tennessee against you. You're gonna go against them by yourself? You crazy?
Well, I agree. I agree that you need to be represented, and there are a lot of very good, competent counsel available in this town to help them. I think we have some in our office as well, but I truly believe that people need to be represented, even if you're wrong, even if you're guilty. You need representation because
it's mitigation too.
Well, it does that, but also in our system, we aren't looking at what really happened, the truth. I truly believe if we were after the truth, we wouldn't have a Fourth Amendment or a Fifth Amendment.
Right.
Because we believe that individual rights are greater than truth and trying to find out the truth.
Unless you're Lois Lerner of the IRS. They want all our Fourth and Fifth Amendment in. That doesn't apply to tax returns. The courts rule. You got, what about Lois Lerner? I'll take the Fourth. I'll take the Fifth. I'll take a Fifth.
Right.
So yeah, everybody else it applies.
So everyone is entitled to representation. And even if they are factually guilty, they're entitled to representation.
Why don't more people use trusts? I mean, listen, I'm just going to give you my opinion, and you can tell me what you think of this. Don't die without a will, or even with a will without a trust. If you're up in age, just create a trust and make your trustee someone you trust in your family. Because if not, the greedy state's going to take your money. They're going to take it. They're going to suck it like it's going to sound like a vacuum cleaner outside your door. What are your thoughts on trusts?
We use trusts a lot. We use them coming out of personal injury actions with the settlements to protect the money. We use trusts in estate planning. We use them internally within a will where you have a pour-over trust in the will where the funds, especially if you've got minors, you've got minor beneficiaries, either your grandchildren or your children at the time of death, where the funds can be taken care of for them to protect them, to make sure they've got funds for education, etc. We use trusts if you're in a hazardous profession where liability is really out there for you. You work in hazardous waste, your company handles hazardous waste, or your company is involved in situations where your employees are doing things that are at risk to the public, and you have to use a lot of steps to protect the public. Well, things go wrong. You need a company, so you've got a corporate shield. But a lot of times your personal wealth you may need to protect as well, just as a belt and suspenders if nothing else. And so we'll use trusts to help protect the insiders of dangerous occupational businesses.
Our target demographic is typically over 35, and I think they're in much need of trusts. They're working people, typically males, 60 to 70%. What exactly is a trust? What is a revocable trust and a non-revocable trust? Can we discuss that a little bit?
Sure. A revocable trust means just that you can set it up. Point in time, you can revoke it and say, no, I either don't like the beneficiaries or I don't like the trust. I need what we call the corpus, the race or the property that you put into the trust. Say you said things are going extremely well in your household and you put $20,000 into a trust that you want to be there for your grandchild. But it's a revocable trust. And for whatever reason you've done this. And let's say suddenly 6 years later, you lose your job and you need those funds. You can revoke it.
Right.
If it was irrevocable, you could not touch the funds. Right. Once you've made that gift to the trust, it is no longer available to you.
And it makes you basically bulletproof as far as liability is concerned, isn't it?
Well,
for the most part,
that depends on how the trust is handled once it's created and what type of trust it is. It's got to be revocable so that it's truly no longer within your control. So your creditors know that
it's got to be revocable or non-revocable.
Non-revocable. I'm sorry, it's got to be non-revocable. So it's outside your control. Right. It's got to be treated separately apart from you. We have a self-service trust in Tennessee where you actually can set up a trust for yourself.
Now, this is important because if, let's say, with car insurance, you only have a policy that covers $20,000.
Get more insurance.
Yeah, and you hit a Lamborghini, they're going to come after you, but they can't come after your trust.
Well, again,
it's almost like corporate status in a sense, isn't it?
Very much so.
Yeah.
You've got to make sure there's compliance in place with respect to following what the trust requires and the trust laws, and it's treated separately from you.
Right. Much
like a corporation, and you can't treat the corporate funds as yours and use it as just another wallet for your household, because if you do that, then you're taking on alter ego status potentially, where they can say that you and the corporation are one and the same. You have to respect the separateness of the corporation from you, and likewise you have to respect the separateness of the trust from you. And the trust will have a fiduciary that's actually the legal holder of what you put into the trust. That will be a trustee, and he will be actually the person holding those assets for the beneficiaries. And as long as that is done, then the trusts are no longer your assets and would not be available for your creditors.
Because the trust being corporate status is like a corporation, which is a legal person. It can sue and be sued, but it isn't you. You don't own a corporation. You may have an interest in it.
Right. The trustee, the fiduciary, can sue and be sued if that's within the powers of the trust document.
Right. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it can't be set up to evade or avoid either.
No, you cannot. Yeah. Matter of fact, if you do a self-service trust, which Tennessee adopted a few years ago, they're not available in Georgia, by the way. But if you did a self-service trust, you actually sign an affidavit at the time that you execute the trust instrument, and in that affidavit, you certify that you're not insolvent for the purposes of avoiding known claims.
Yeah, but like let's say you believe you owe taxes, and your idea is, I'm going to set this trust up to evade or avoid them because you believe you owe them and didn't pay. The IRS can come, then that could be set aside in a court of law, correct?
Well, if it's proven, if yes, because of the fact that when you signed the affidavit, you were signing it falsely.
Right. So the trust is really meant for your benefit and the benefit of your heirs, looking beyond today, and it really is a benefit because, once again, I'm going to throw this out: if you die without a will, or die with an incomplete will, like you left everything to your ex-wife when you were married and you forgot, you're in trouble.
Or more importantly, you've prepared an elaborate will, but you've underfunded it and taxes are owed. And suddenly, despite all your best intentions of taking care of all the people that were your loved ones in life, because of the tax obligations, the executor can't carry out your intent.
There really should be a high school class on this because I can't tell you, Jim, over the years how many businesses I've dealt with that either don't have corporations or, like, if they start a business, they'll take it out of their own pocket instead of doing a corporation or subchapter S or an LLC and open themselves to liability. And then everything they earn is income as opposed to lending the company money and borrowing it and collecting the interest. So there's no income because it's a loan repayment, so on and so forth, to help them economically. But there's no one there to teach these kids this. If the parents don't know, they don't know. And this is so important, I believe, for high schoolers, that this basic information, I believe, should be a course in high school. Well, at a minimum, if you are starting a business or you own a business, or just are an employee, sure. But at some point in time, you should go and seek legal advice with respect to, if you're going to be an owner of a company, should I set it up as an entity? And not all times you do. I know I've got a client that because of the franchise and excise tax liability that they would have if they were a separate entity, the decision to address his potential liability was, let's don't set up an entity because the taxes will eat us alive, but let's set up a large amount of insurance. And so what we did was we insured against the liability because the premiums would be less than the F&E taxes that would have been owed to the state. I'll tell you, we can go on. This is just one subject. We could probably talk 6 hours and not even at the tip of the iceberg today on these subjects. And we're going to have more next week, next Wednesday, 11 o'clock, with a different co-host. And then you get to choose who you like with a wink and a nod. But I know you're driving down the road with a business, and I know you're listening, thinking to yourself, should I, shouldn't have call Jim and talk about this? You have to. You cannot be in business or have a business without first contacting an attorney and looking at your liability and your risks and your assets and what you need to do to protect them. So here's the number you want to call. It's Everyone Knows McKoon. 756-6400. MWLawFirm.com. Jim, it's been a pleasure. Thanks, you, buddy. Thank you so much. I look forward to your show next week. Legal Buddies at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio on YouTube, AM 1240 and Twitter. Colin Cowherd's next.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.